Welcome back, guys. So before we finish our Lambda function, we have to create the S3 bucket. And I've actually already created my S3 bucket, and mine is Bedrock course bucket. And you can't have this name because bucket names have to be globally unique. But basically what you just want to do is go to S3 here, create a bucket, whatever name, I believe like this, and then you can just create your bucket. And if I wanted to, I could just use this whatever name. I can just copy the name of it and then paste it in over here. And that's what I would use. So just create a bucket and just have the bucket name over here. So now that we're done with this, make sure that you deployed it. And here deploy means saving it, okay? So now that we have our Lambda function set up, let's go to API Gateway. And Amazon API Gateway is a fully managed service that makes it easy for developers to create, publish, maintain, monitor secure APIs at any scales. And basically the API acts as a front door for applications to access data, business logic, or functionality from your backend services. So the reason why this is amazing is because it's such a hectic thing to do when you want to set up your API endpoints. Whether you set it up with PHP, Node.js, Python. So over here, you can just come over to API Gateway and you can just create an API. And this is actually, API Gateway is one of the backbones of serverless architecture on AWS, because it allows you or us, any developer, to have a backend that is completely managed by AWS. So I just have to basically say that my post route, if I go to this endpoint and post, call this Lambda function, okay, and return this. So we don't have to write any code to create an API. So click to HTTP API, and as you can see, there's WebSocket API, REST APIs, private REST APIs. So I'm going to say build, I'm going to say Bedrock course API, and I'm just going to go to review and create. As you can see, create it. And now we're going to start adding routes to it. As you can see, we do not have a route right now. If I go to APIs, I have my Bedrock course API. Awesome. And now I can say create a route. And I want to specify a post route. So whenever I hit the code generation route, I want the Lambda function that we have created, let's go back, to be called, to be invoked, okay? So I want this Lambda function to be called whenever I hit the code generation route, okay? So create, and I have my first route. And here, you can attach authorization. Obviously in production, you want to have, tokens, JWT tokens for authorization so that you could access the API. But because this is a demo course, I'm not going to add the authorization. I'm just going to add the integration. And this integration means basically what should happen when someone hits a post to this route. So attach integration. And I'm going to say create and attach integration. I'm going to say Lambda because I want a Lambda function to be called. The region, make sure you look at the region that your Lambda function is that you created. Mine is in US West 2, and mine is going to be the Bedrock code generation, okay? I can have a description, invoke permissions, so just leave it as default, and I'm going to say create. So now, as you can see, I have my API and the post method set up. It calls this Lambda function. It has this timeout. Obviously, like I said, we can add additional security for this. And now if I go to APIs and I go to this one and go to the post, so go to APIs and this and go to, here. So sorry, whatever you had over here. So this one, this API, this is going to be the name that you can call the URL that you call your API with. And actually one thing I did forget, I was in the routes, and as you can see, I created this route, but I haven't deployed it yet. And if I try to deploy it, it's going to be auto deploy enabled, but I don't want this. You can select a stage, okay? You can have development, production, so those kind of stages, okay? So let's actually try and create a stage. So I'm going to come here to stage, and I'm going to select the default. Actually, I'm going to say create. So sorry if that was fast. So go to stages, go to create, and I'm going to say this is the dev, and we're not going to enable automatic deployment, okay? And we're going to have to manually deploy it. So right now, as you can see, I am in the routes, and if you look at it, it's not yet deployed. So this new route that I created is not yet deployed, so I have to click on the deploy, and I'm going to deploy it to the dev branch. The default branch has auto deploy enabled, so that means you don't have to deploy it manually, but I think this is a good practice because, in production it's different how you set it up, but you want to set it up with not necessarily to have automatically update the stages or the deployment. So deploy to stage. So now, as you can see, successfully updated the dev stage with new deployment. So if I come over here, and this is my dev API, okay? So you can have production, you can have all kinds of APIs. This is my API, and if I go to /dev/the route that I created, which is the code generation, I should be able to call the Lambda function, which invokes Bedrock, and then it saves the output to S3. So I will see you in the next video where we set up Postman and how we should call our endpoint. And maybe we might encounter issues. So if you encounter issues, I know the reason why you will. We're going to talk about it, but I'll see you in the next video.